I'm 27 years old, and I've known for a long time that I don't want children. Ever since I was a teenager, I've been certain about this decision. It's not that I don't like kids, they're great for other people, but motherhood has never been my calling. I've tried multiple times to find a doctor willing to perform a tubal ligation, but I keep getting the same response. You're too young to make such a permanent decision. As if at 27, I'm somehow incapable of knowing my own mind. My ex-friend, who I'll call Karen, is the complete opposite. Karen is 35 and desperate for a child. When we first met 3 years ago at a community art class, she seemed sweet and caring. We bonded over our love of painting, and soon we were hanging out regularly. But over time I started noticing concerning behaviors. Karen is what you might call the stereotypical entitled person. I've watched her scream at restaurant staff over minor issues. One time she actually yelled at a waiter who brought her iced tea instead of sweet tea, threatening to call the police if she didn't see a manager immediately. I remember sinking into my chair, mortified, as everyone stared at us. I tried to calm her down, telling her it was just a drink and the waiter could easily bring another one. But Karen insisted it was about the principle, claiming they needed to learn to listen to customers properly. Her reaction was completely out of proportion to such a small mistake, but her entitlement went beyond restaurant tantrums. Karen doesn't have a steady job or home, bouncing between hotels and friends' couches, yet somehow she collects pets. Lots of them. At one point she had multiple cats, a dog, several rats, and hamsters, all crammed into whatever temporary space she was occupying. Disturbingly, many of these animals had short lifespans under her care. Her relationship situation wasn't much better. Her boyfriend was significantly younger and seemed to enable her worst behaviors. Despite her unstable lifestyle, Karen was fixated on having a child. She tried to adopt but was denied due to her living situation and some mental health concerns. During one of our coffee meetups about 6 months ago, Karen started talking about finding a surrogate. She laid out her expectations, which were completely unrealistic. She told me she needed someone who would carry her baby for free, follow her specific diet plan, let her attend all appointments, and be available whenever she wanted to feel the baby kick. When I gently explained that surrogacy doesn't usually work that way and is actually quite expensive, with surrogates having their own rights, Karen dismissed my concerns. She insisted that someone with a good heart would do it for her, complaining that people these days are just too selfish. Her entitled attitude was clear. I didn't push the issue. Arguing with Karen was like putting your head in a garbage disposal, pointless and painful. Instead, I tried changing the subject. I mentioned an article I had read about uterine transplants becoming more successful, suggesting it might someday be an option for women who can't carry children. Karen's eyes lit up as she told me she'd do anything for such a transplant. That's when I casually commented that I'd happily donate mine someday since I don't plan on using it, joking that there was no point in having a perfectly good uterus going to waste. What I meant as a light-hearted comment turned serious when Karen declared that this would be perfect. I could give her my uterus so she could finally have her baby. I laughed, thinking she was joking, but she didn't join in. She just stared at me with an intensity that made me uncomfortable. Still, I didn't think much of it at the time. About a month later, Karen and I had a falling out over something unrelated. She had borrowed money from my wallet without asking, and when confronted, she twisted the story to make it seem like I had offered it to her. It was the last straw in a friendship that had become increasingly one-sided. I told her I needed space and stopped responding to her messages. Last week, I woke up to dozens of notifications. Karen had posted all over social media claiming that I had made a legal agreement to either give her my uterus or be her surrogate. Her post included details about our private conversations, completely twisted to sound like binding promises. Within hours, her friends started messaging me. One person accused me of giving Karen false hope and asked if I understood how much pain she was in. Another called me the worst kind of person for supposedly promising her a baby and then backing out. The messages were relentless and cruel. Then came the most shocking message from Karen herself. She claimed I had made a legal commitment to her and threatened that she was getting a lawyer to sue me for my uterus and for the trauma I'd caused by breaking my promise. She ended with an ominous warning that I would regret this. I was stunned. How do you even respond to something so absurd? I wondered how she planned to afford a lawyer when she couldn't even pay rent. But Karen has always been resourceful when it comes to getting what she wants. Fortunately, my cousin works in law and put me in touch with a colleague who specializes in harassment cases. After one consultation, the attorney assured me that no, I cannot be legally forced to surrender an organ or act as someone's surrogate without formal, notarized contracts, which obviously don't exist. The attorney sent Karen a cease and desist letter, warning that her public posts constituted defamation and her continued harassment could result in legal consequences for her, not me. Karen's response was to escalate her social media campaign, but it backfired spectacularly. People who had initially believed her started questioning her story when she couldn't produce any evidence of our agreement. When she posted screenshots of our text conversations, they clearly showed my casual comment being met with her serious response, revealing her delusion to everyone. The final blow came when a mutual acquaintance posted about Karen's history of threatening others, including her attempt to call Child Protective Services on a mother during an online disagreement. Karen's credibility crumbled completely. She's gone quiet now. I've blocked her on everything and her social media accounts have disappeared. I heard she's moved to another city to escape the negativity. I'm a writer from Chile. For years, I wrote about my experiences, the bizarre journey that led me to become an author. It was cathartic, but my therapist suggested I dig deeper. She wanted me to confront the demons of my childhood, specifically what happened to me in the 1990s in Curicó. Those were 4 years of hell. The bullying started because of my soft voice. That's it. Just because I didn't sound like the other boys, I became a target. What began as name-calling evolved into something much worse. Groping, violence, and eventually assault. I was just a kid with no power to stop any of it. Writing about those experiences was excruciating. I detailed everything. The helplessness, the fear, the ways I tried to cope. I wrote about hospitalizations, about teachers who looked the other way, about a system that failed me completely. Before I knew it, I had completed a manuscript that merged my writing journey with my childhood trauma. Around 30 or 40 stories of severe school bullying. After sitting on the manuscript for years, I finally decided to publish it in Chile. My lawyer, being cautious, suggested we send it to the school first and offer them space for a statement. Their response left me speechless. The email read, "We are sorry for what happened to you, but we still think it is cowardly to spread these stories about our beautiful school. We have lots of proud children that love their school and have a great experience daily." This message came from the former vice principal, the same person who had sent me to the bathroom where I was assaulted. I couldn't sleep for days after reading those words. The next day I signed with my publisher out of pure determination. My lawyer was worried. He couldn't believe these people didn't realize what a terrible mistake their response was. He emailed the school again and requested a video call meeting, which they finally granted a month later, in August 2022. During that call, I came face to face with my past in the form of the current principal. During our video call, the principal told me they had researched me and discovered I've been working in media for the past decade. When I asked what that had to do with anything, he accused me of being involved in shady business and trying to embarrass their school for no good reason. He said they wanted nothing to do with me. I defended myself, explaining that I was simply sharing my experience of being bullied and assaulted at their school and how the administration had failed to protect me. The principal dismissed my concerns, saying these were old stories that no one would believe anyway. I countered by telling him that many people in Curicó had already read my book. I mentioned it was selling very well and that I had plenty of witnesses, including some of my former bullies who were willing to back up my story. The principal didn't care about this information and abruptly ended the meeting. I was furious but also strangely empowered. The truth was out there now, and people were listening. Yesterday I received a surprising call. The owners of the school wanted to speak with me. When I spoke with the school owners, they told me they had no knowledge of the video call meeting with me. They explained they had fired the principal after learning about how he treated me and they planned to warn other schools about him. I directly asked if they actually cared about what happened to me at their school. They responded vaguely, saying they were taking steps to address the issues I'd raised. When I pressed them about acknowledging that the abuse happened, they sidestepped the question, focusing instead on moving forward and preventing similar incidents in the future. They were clearly watching their backs, afraid of the damage my book could do to their reputation. Did I care about their motivations? Not really. The principal who dismissed my trauma was gone, and that felt like a small victory. I've just finished translating my book to English. It wasn't a straight translation, I rewrote it, providing context for international readers about Chile in the 1990s and the cultural factors that enabled such widespread bullying. The school might never truly acknowledge what happened to me. The owners might be acting purely out of self-interest. But my story is out there now, helping others who've experienced similar trauma. I was obsessed with this all-female band that basically defined girl power in the 90s. Their music shaped who I am today. It got me through some tough times in high school and inspired me to pick up my first guitar. I've been in several bands over the years, and their influence has always been present in my music. So when they announced their reunion tour after more than 20 years, there was no question. I had to go. This was my chance to finally see them live, after years of only experiencing their music through recordings. I didn't even think twice about dropping $3,000 on a credit card for tickets, travel, and accommodations. I requested time off work months in advance and made plans to travel halfway across the country. My boyfriend was incredibly supportive and excited for me, knowing how much this meant to me. He's not as big a fan as I am, but he wanted to be there to share this experience. We arrived at the venue about 6 hours early to ensure we'd get spots near the stage. The line was already forming, and we settled in for the long wait. Initially, the atmosphere was electric, everyone buzzing with excitement about seeing these icons perform. But as more people arrived and noticed my boyfriend and me together, something shifted. I started overhearing whispers that quickly grew into direct confrontations. A woman with blue hair approached me and rudely questioned why I was there with a man, saying this wasn't my space. When I asked her what she meant, a woman with a nose ring jumped in and accused me of betraying my gender by being straight. She said this band was about female empowerment, not bringing my boyfriend to gawk at them. I was stunned. I told them I'd been a fan for over 20 years and that my boyfriend was just there to support me. That's when a tall woman with tattoos challenged my fan credentials, suggesting I probably couldn't even name their first album. I answered all their music trivia questions correctly, which only seemed to make them angrier. When we were finally let into the venue, we managed to secure spots about 3 rows from the stage. Perfect view, but unfortunately, many of the same hostile people ended up near us. As the opening act finished and the crowd grew more packed, things escalated from verbal to physical. Someone yanked my hair from behind. Another person accidentally stepped on my foot repeatedly. Someone else spilled their drink down my back. My boyfriend suggested we move back a bit since things were getting out of hand. I refused, explaining that I'd paid too much and come too far to give up these spots. Throughout the first few songs, I noticed security pulling rowdy fans through a side door where police lights were flashing. I didn't want to get involved in anything that would get me arrested or kicked out, so I tried my best to ignore the harassment. But there was this one woman who wouldn't let up. She had short, spiky hair and wore a vintage t-shirt from the band's first tour, something that would have impressed me under different circumstances. She started by accidentally bumping into me repeatedly, then progressed to grabbing fistfuls of my hair and yanking hard enough that my eyes watered. She tried to knock my feet out from under me several times. The spiky-haired woman said some bizarre things while attacking me. She claimed she was not of this world, told me I didn't belong there, and threatened to end me. Her words were strange and threatening, but it was the physical assault that was really concerning. She wrapped her hand in my hair and pulled back so hard I thought my neck might snap. When I tried to move away, she followed, continuing her assault. I'm pretty strong from years of hauling music equipment, so I was able to stay upright despite her attempts to take me down. I didn't want to throw any punches because I could see security was quick to remove fighters, and I wasn't about to miss this concert I dreamed of for decades. But after about an hour of this treatment, with the band still having about 30 minutes left in their set, I was done. The music I'd waited so long to hear live was being drowned out by this nightmare experience. I didn't want to simply retreat though. This woman had ruined what should have been one of the best nights of my life. When she grabbed my hair yet again, probably the 20th time, I made a split-second decision. Instead of pulling away, I twisted toward her. She was wearing a very low-cut tank top, and I was suddenly face to face with her. I wrapped one arm around her to hold her in place, and with my other hand, I stuck my fingers down my throat. After several dry heaves, I was seriously dehydrated from standing in line all day. I managed to vomit right down the front of her shirt while maintaining eye contact. She was too shocked to respond immediately, which gave me the perfect opportunity. I straightened up, smiled at her, and gave her a shove toward the stage. The momentum pushed me backward, away from the crowd. My boyfriend followed me as I made my way to the exit. He was shocked and asked if I had really just done what he thought I did. I confirmed that yes, I had, and suggested we leave. A few weeks later, I channeled the whole experience into a song for my band. It became one of our most requested songs at local shows. Fans would cheer when I'd introduce it, as inspired by a true story about standing up to entitled people. So while I didn't get the perfect concert experience I'd hoped for, I did get an unforgettable story and a pretty awesome song out of it. The $3,000 wasn't. I had just finished a morning shift at the hospital where I work as a nurse. 12 hours on my feet dealing with patients and their families, charting and barely getting a break. All I wanted was to get home, take a shower, and crash into my bed for a solid 8 hours before my next shift. But first, I needed gas. The gas station near my apartment is usually busy, especially during rush hour. As I pulled in, I noticed all pumps were occupied. I circled around once, analyzing the situation, and spotted an SUV at one of the pumps. The nozzle was still in the tank, but the automatic pumping had stopped. The clip had disengaged. No one was around the vehicle. I figured they might have gone inside to pay or grab something quick, so I pulled in behind them. I waited and waited. 5 minutes passed. Finally, I saw a guy strolling out of the convenience store, phone pressed to his ear, talking and laughing like he had all the time in the world. He moved with the confidence of someone who owned the place, not a care about anyone else's schedule or needs. Finally, I muttered to myself as he approached his SUV. He casually returned the pump, secured his gas cap, and I prepared to pull forward. But instead of getting into his vehicle, this guy just walked past my car, heading toward the sidewalk. I watched as he sauntered to the intersection, waited for the light to change, and then crossed the street and entered a cannabis dispensary on the other side. My jaw dropped. This guy had left his SUV blocking a gas pump during rush hour so he could go shopping for weed. I looked around, wondering if I was the only one witnessing this absurdity. I caught the eye of a woman pumping gas on the other side of our lane. Her expression mirrored my shock. I rolled down my window. I asked the woman if she had just seen the guy leave his car to go to the MJ store. She confirmed my observation, adding that he'd been gone for at least 10 minutes already and that she'd been watching the whole time. She couldn't believe how entitled some people can be. When I explained my predicament about needing to get gas and get home, she offered a solution. She told me she was almost done and suggested I pull in behind her when she left so I could at least get my gas and leave. I thanked her sincerely, expressing my appreciation for her help. The woman finished pumping, gave me a sympathetic smile, and drove off. I quickly moved my car to her spot and began filling up my tank. The whole time I was fuming. I considered my options. I could wait for him to return and confront him, but knowing my luck, he'd be browsing for an hour. I could call the gas station attendant to have the SUV towed, but that seemed excessive and time-consuming. I could leave a strongly worded note, but would that even make a difference to someone so self-centered? When I finished pumping, an idea struck me. It wasn't my proudest moment, but I was exhausted, irritated, and feeling petty. I had been using a bright green dental floss pick to get some breakfast remnants out of my teeth while waiting. I walked over to the driver's side of his SUV and wedged the floss pick between the window and the door frame. It wouldn't damage anything, but it would be immediately visible. I hurried back to my car, paid at the pump, and drove off, watching the dispensary door in my rearview mirror. No sign of the entitled SUV owner yet. I pressed the gas a little harder than necessary, just in case he came out and decided to follow me. The floss pick wasn't much of a revenge, but it felt good to do something, anything, to acknowledge the frustration this stranger had caused several people with his self-centered behavior.